Hello and welcome to our webinar. My name is Andrew Townsend and I am Marketing Operations here at Smarty. Today's webinar is about our new QGIS plugin, Rooftop-Accurate Geocoding for US addresses, and we are very excited to get started. However, before I introduce our presenters, let me go over just a couple items of housekeeping. Number one, this webinar is being recorded, so we will be able to send a copy of that out to everybody who registered. You'll be able to review this after the fact. That does mean that if you need to step out, you'll still have that recording to be able to pick up and view at a later time. Also, if you think somebody else would love this webinar, you can forward that recording directly from your email account. To interact with our presenters and other audience members, feel free to use the chat and Q&A panels. Those are part of the Zoom webinar interface. We'll be happy to take as many of your questions as we can, either verbally or we'll be typing them out. We've got quite a few people here that are experts in the field, so chances are we can get your question answered. All right, so speaking of those people who are here, today we have Wes Arnold, Product Marketing Manager, here with us. We also have Savannah Ryan and Caroline Hickey, two of our amazing software engineers, and we're very, very excited to hear what they have to share. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you guys. I believe we're beginning with Wes.
That's correct. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate the introduction. Yeah, we're really excited to share this new plugin with you. We think it's going to be very useful, and we think that you guys will enjoy using it. So let's go over the agenda. So first, we're going to give a brief summary of QGIS. Now, we made the assumption that if you have signed up for this webinar, you probably know what QGIS is. But we're going to give an overview anyways. We'll try and keep it really short. Then we'll talk about what makes Smarty's QGIS plugin different or better. There's a variety of different plugins out there for geocoding. What is it that makes Smarty's a better use? And then we'll talk about potential use cases. How are people in the real world going to use this QGIS plugin? And then we'll jump into the tutorial and demo that Caroline and Savannah have prepared for you. They'll talk about how to install it, doing some single address geocoding, and then batch address geocoding. And then we'll have a Q&A at the end. Again, like Andrew said, please submit your questions. We'd be happy to answer them. So let's talk about what is QGIS. QGIS is a free open source geographic information system. What is a geographic information system? Well, it's a utility you can use to map out a variety of information. Really, it's just limited by your imagination. You can create, edit, visualize, and publish geospatial information. That might be like water usage, population growth, migration of populations, whatever it is you want to map. QGIS is a very powerful tool. It's available on Windows, Mac, Linux, BSD, and mobile devices, and it's maintained by a group of volunteer developers. And it's used by GIS professionals around the world. It has a very large international following. So what is different about Smarty's plugin? Well, number one, it's easy to use. We've designed the interface to be very simple and very intuitive so that you get the easiest use out of it. Also, there's no account necessary. Some plugins out there require that you have an account with the company before you use it, and that's not the case with us. So moving into the next point there, you get free single address lookups. So if you're wanting to just do single addresses at a time, you can use that for free without an account set up. Now, we want to note that batch geocoding is available for customers who have a US Rooftop Geocoding subscription. We're going to talk about that in the demonstration portion. Another unique feature is that it uses Smarty's US Rooftop Geocoding engine, and that's premium geocoding. So it's not this freeware that you might find on like a college website or something like that. You're getting premium rooftop geocoding when you use this QGIS plugin. Also, it's got built-in US address autocomplete and address verification. So you'll see that as we're doing the demo, that as Savannah or Caroline are entering an address, it's going to suggest valid addresses as they're typing, and it's also going to verify that address once it's submitted. Let's talk a little bit about US Rooftop Geocoding. When we talk about rooftop, what do we mean? Well, the term rooftop geocoding has kind of been loosely used for around 20 years or so, where some people call the ZIP9 was rooftop, some people call it parcel centroid rooftop. And when we say parcel centroid, what we mean is that the pin or the location is in the center of the parcel rather than on the rooftop of the structure. With the US Rooftop Geocoding and with the QGIS plugin, you're getting true rooftop results. So in this little image that we have here, you can see that the pins are on the rooftop. This is basically to denote that that's where you're going to find the location. The geocoding results will be right on that location. Why is that important? We're going to talk about that in the next couple slides. Also, US Rooftop Geocoding is integrated with our US address verification. We talked about that on the previous slide, that using the QGIS plugin, you're going to get address verification right built in. And that's the same with our US Rooftop Geocoding product, that once you submit an address, it gets verified and you get the rooftop geocoding results at the same time. There's no need for separate utilities. And it's extremely fast. It's up to 10,000 times faster than the quote unquote other guys. Now, we do want to put a caveat on the QGIS plugin is limited to it's rate limited to what QGIS limits us to. But if you're using US Rooftop Geocoding from us, it is extremely fast. And also, our US Rooftop Geocoding includes over 15 million non-postal addresses. And when I say non-postal addresses, what I mean is addresses that aren't serviced by the USPS and not found in their database. And that's a big deal because let's say you're trying to map out something in Jackson Hole where the addresses are not serviced by the USPS. They all have PO boxes. And so that doesn't disqualify them from you using the QGIS plugin to geocode those addresses because we have that feature. Now, let's talk about use cases. How would somebody in the real world use this? So let's say if you're in telecom, you can determine the coverage within a certain distance of a cell tower. Let's say you wanted to present this to somebody and you needed to map it out rather than just having the geocoding coordinates. You wanted to show somebody, here's where we're thinking of placing the tower, and within this range, here's all our customers. You could do that with the QGIS plugin. Similar with insurance, you can map out the relationship between insured properties and nearby risks, such as fire zones, fault lines, floodplains, all of those. You could identify the one property that you're insuring, and then you can map out the distance between that property and risks. Healthcare, you could map out and evaluate your customer's proximity to a care provider. Are they within a convenient distance? Where should the next facility go to provide a convenient provider? Also, real estate, you can map out and identify properties for sale within a certain radius of potential customers. There's a whole lot of uses. Now, I'm going to turn the time over to Caroline and Savannah to go ahead and show you a little bit more about how to install and how to use the QGIS plugin. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. You guys can take over.
Okay, thanks, Wes. So I'm going to show just the install process and then the first part of our plugin. Then I'll turn the time over to Savannah, and Savannah will go over just kind of the second half of our plugin. It's split into two different things. So to install the plugin, you're going to open QGIS and go up to the top of your toolbar, and there's a thing that says plugins, and you want to click on that and then click on manage and install plugins. If you come here, let's say I hadn't typed that out first. If you come to install, you can look up Smarty. There's our plugin, and then you just hit install. And then it should pop up in your toolbar over here. And for the purpose of this demo, we have an HCMGIS. It's a different plugin, providing us a base layer so we can see, where our coordinates are being placed on the map. So if you click on here, the Smarty plugin will pop up, and I will demo this single address lookup, and then Savannah will look at this other tab for the batch lookup. So the single lookup, it's very simple and easy to use. All we're going to do is enter an address. I love Chick-fil-A, so we'll do the Chick-fil-A in Provo, Utah. The autocomplete API will suggest addresses that are near to you. And so this is our neighborhood Chick-fil-A. Our plugin can also add, create new layers or add to existing layers. So I have some of these example layers pulled up, and it will only add addresses to layers previously created by the Smarty plugin. So if I had added a Chick-fil-A address to a brandly new or a created new layer, but the Chick-fil-A was in Springville and I wanted to add this Provo address, then I can go down to that layer and select it. For this, we're just going to create a new one. We're going to call it webinar. And then we give you the option of adding a point ID along with some other information that our API will spit out for you. We'll just pretend like we have a really intense ID. And then we're going to give the address a label. And then I do love the star, so we're going to leave it on the star, but you have a choice of different output symbols. And for you experienced QGIS users, you know that all of this you can change after you process the address by right clicking over here in the bottom left on the layer and then customizing it how you want. You can customize it a little bit more if you want, just right here on the plugin. I really do not love the red, so we're going to change it to a blue. And then you can zoom in on the coordinate or you don't have to. So basically it's just a little bounding box that is created around the point so that it will zoom into it. But we do want to zoom in. So we're going to process that lookup and we'll see that it zoomed in on Chick-fil-A in Provo. It put a dot and it called it webinar. And then if you've noticed, the plugin got significantly longer and it shows some of what our API returns. So we have a summary. It tells us it was a valid match. It tells us the address, city, state, zip, and the latitude and longitude, and then the precision. So we got rooftop accuracy. And then if we want to see more information about, or more information that our API returns, we can hit the metadata and scroll down and see a few more things that the API returns. And this is not everything that our API returns. We left a lot of the different fields out. We just added things that we thought QGIS users would be interested in. And we can always add some more. Other than that, we have a need help link that will take you to our Smarty documentation for the plugin. And then also we have one more, which is learn more about Rooftop Geocoding, which tells you more about our geocoding process and our API. You can look at prices if you want to buy a subscription. Like Wes said, this single address is completely free. You can use it. You will be rate limited according to what Smarty has in place for those who are using a single address lookup free demo, but you can use it freely. Other than that, I think just one significant thing to say, or two, is saying that if you're going to add an address to an existing layer and that address, you added an ID to that address. So let's say I choose this one. It will require you, so I'll just type in a random address. It will require you, before I can process the lookup, it will throw an error and just say, hey, you had an ID on that other one, so you're gonna have to give this address an ID as well. Whereas if I don't have an ID, it won't let me add an ID to it. One other thing is if you get in the summary a non-valid address, sometimes it works a little bit better if you go and do the address components. We get a little bit better results using that. And that's about it for the single address lookup. And And so I'll turn the time over to Savannah. I'll continue driving, but we'll give Savannah the floor.
Yeah, so I'm just going to talk about the batch lookup really quick. It's really similar to our single address lookup, but you get to process as many as you want. One thing to note about the batch lookup is you are required to have tokens in order to use the service. We have made it really easy that you can just click the purchase subscription box right there and go and purchase a subscription in order to gain access to this service. So Caroline's just going to go ahead and show, this is what it will look like if you don't have your auth token and your auth ID in here. She's going to add those back so we can actually demo this. But yeah, it's really easy. You get your tokens from the website, hit add tokens, and it'll become available to you. So the batch lookup works by adding, we take a CSV file that you provide to us. We have a couple here ready to go. We're going to do Wayne County in Utah because it doesn't take a long time to process. Like Wes said, we're a little bit limited with QGIS, so we can process up to 600 or 700 addresses per second, and that depends on the plan that you get as well. So once you find a CSV file that you want to process, you're just going to hit add CSV. And you can see that we populated those fields right there. We've designed the plugin in order to look at your CSV file that you provided for us and take the column names. If for some reason you don't have column names or something gets messed up, we also make it available that you can go ahead and click the drop down and find the one that belongs to you. You also notice that we have a primary key there. A lot of times companies will have their own identifiers, and so we provided a way to add that as well. So yeah, once you've selected all those fields, then we're going to go ahead and click Save Output. One other thing to note with the ID layer there is if you don't provide one, we will provide one for you, and it's just a simple one. So yeah, and you just type this file that you want to save it to. In this case, it's going to be an easy one, and while she's processing that, we'll show the set features. Just like the single address lookup, you can add layer names, you can add point sizes, labels, you can change and customize it however you want. And while that's processing, hopefully, there we go. You'll also notice that we have a single line address checkbox there on the right, top right. If for some reason your CSV file it has it all in one line, we're also able to read from that and process it just as well. So here are the addresses in Wayne County. You can see that it plotted a whole bunch of stars on the map. We're going to zoom out a little bit so you can see it a little bit better here. It's the same rooftop geocoding accuracy as you'd get doing the single address, just in a larger batch. And yeah, that's probably the most important thing you need to know about the batch lookups. So,
and we'll just show you what is saved on your computer is also represented in the attribute table associated with your layer. So you can right click on a layer, look at the open attribute table, and you'll see everything that is saved on your computer in a CSV file. So you'll get all of the Smarty API information returned, not all of it, but what we've decided is useful for the QGIS users, and we're always open to suggestions. So, but you also will see I_address, and it's just everything that you inputted. So you'll have that saved onto your computer. Savannah, did you want to go over the other layer we wanted to show them with Utah County?
Yeah, so we'll show one more layer here that we calculated beforehand. It took about 15 minutes to get all of the addresses in Utah County, so we figured we'd populate it before. We're going to just show you one cool thing that the plugin's able to do. Along with residential addresses, we're also able to find business addresses and accurately depict those as well. So Caroline's just going to zoom in here. On a mall that we have here in Provo that has many businesses inside of it, and you'll be able to see that we were able to pinpoint each of those businesses accurately. Provo is very densely populated, so hopefully QGIS can load this for us.
Sorry, I'm just having a hard time remembering exactly where.
That's okay. It also does it with like apartment buildings. It may not let us zoom in here totally, and that's okay. But it also shows apartment buildings, like if you have a duplex or one with 4 apartments in it, it'll pinpoint each of those apartments, which is pretty cool. Let's see if we can find one here. There we go. Okay, we're having a hard time finding one here, but you're more than welcome to purchase a subscription and play around with this. It's a really great tool to use. It's really great to be able to map all of this out and have this data here.
Great. Thanks, Savannah, and thanks, Caroline. I'm going to turn my camera back on. And I'll start sharing my screen again.
Look at all those pins or stars. Or
Yeah,
whatever they were.
that's the thing about that demo is it's so densely populated and so accurate. It's like it's just overloading. So yeah, so we'd love to take your questions about this QGIS app or this QGIS plugin. So go ahead and shoot up any questions that you have. We'd be happy to answer them.
Well, this is a classic risk we run when we have fantastic presenters that are very clear and concise. I don't think we're going to have any questions. I think you may have one more slide for me. We have a couple of a thought about how to use the QGIS. So to be clear, QGIS is free. However, to tap into the Smarty lookups, you will need to purchase a free account. So in order to do that, you can go to smarty.com, and right there at the top right corner, there's a spot where you can register for a free account. Please do that. We'll send out a recording of this to everybody. If you have more questions, again, you can visit smarty.com. Thank you, Wes. Thank you, Caroline and Savannah, for this presentation, and we'll see you guys all in our next webinar.